types and components of computer systems. Today we are looking at what is hardware. That's our focus for this video. Now, when you think about hardware, it's a very important thing you don't want to forget as a student, as a computer user. Now, when we think about hardware, simply it's physical components of a computer. That's what you can see and you can touch, and typically these are things you can also feel. So these are parts that make up your computer. And hardware can also be what? Internal, meaning inside the system unit, or they can be what? External, meaning outside the system unit. So this is like a system unit for typical old style computers. And then when you go inside the system unit, you will find this motherboard. It's like a city with many houses. That's how I look at it. And on this motherboard, you have a lot of other things we'll be looking at. Also, we have what we call a monitor, which is what? Also a hardware. Sometimes people typically call it, oh, computer. This is not a computer, this is a monitor. Or in some cases people call it a computer screen. But for modern computers, this can be a standalone computer which has its system unit at the back. So you have those cases for most modern computers. And then we have a ROM and a RAM, which these are also hardware components of a computers that you will find on the motherboards. These are memories. We will look more into this later on. They have specific uses too, and they have differences. Next, very important, we, as I said, we have internal and external hardware. So what is internal hardware? Typically these are things you will find inside the system unit. So if you open up your laptop, if you open up your phone, if you open up your CPU, or sorry, if you open up your system unit for a typical desktop computer, what do you find inside? Those are internal hardware. So first thing you will look at is a motherboard. So like I said, it's like a city with many houses. Inside the motherboard, somewhere usually, very important, is usually your CPU. It's like the brain of the computer. Without this, you don't have a computer. Your phone, if you have a digital watch, if you have a tablet, they all have CPUs, which acts like the brain of your computer. You have a video card. If you can watch videos, you can watch this video right now on your computer, is because it has a video card. It mustn't be like this, but it could be in a different size depending on your device, but you need a video card to watch this video. And then you have the ROM I talked about earlier. A ROM typically it's a random read-only memory, so it helps in information processing, reading, loading operating systems from hardware and then making them work in the computer. We will look more into this. We also have the sound card. You are able to hear me now because your computer, your phone, your watch, whatever you're using to listen to this has a sound card. It mustn't be like this, but it needs to have a sound card built into the system. Also, you have a RAM, or you have random access memory. It's what helps your computer to run. So you will see somebody will say, oh, my computer has a 12 gig RAM, and I'll say 5 gig RAM. So this defines to a certain extent the speed of your computer. Somebody's computer is slower than yours. It might just be because your computer has a bigger RAM than the other person's own. So very important, internal hardware. And then we have hard disk drive, we have solid state drive, which are all storage media, but they are usually found inside your computer, and they all store information. More lately, we are moving towards a lot of solid state drive. They're much faster, but the thing here, it's they are expensive to purchase compared to this, but they are still useful for different applications. Now, external hardware, like I said, internal and external. What can you find outside of the computer, that, or the system unit, which is also termed, or which you can also feel, you can touch, you can see? That's what we call external hardware. Firstly, keyboard. To enter information into the computer, you need a keyboard. Next, we have a mouse. to work on your computer, navigate, click, and select things. You need a mouse. We have a monitor. I talked about this, or some people call it screen. That's an external hardware, and then we have a USB. It can be, this is actually a storage device, but it's an external storage device for a computer, which makes it an external hardware. And then we have printers. It could be different types of printers, which we've looked into, but it's an external hardware. We will look at software in our next video. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.